Welcome to CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Andy Park, co-founder of TeamCentral. We are a no-code integration and data management company. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Venu Gutlapalli, CEO and co-founder of Tag-N-Trac, a company modernizing real-time tracking and tracing of packages with an ultra-low-cost active wireless solution.
Thanks, Andy, for having us. We're excited to go through some of the questions you had on our technology, and I'm happy to share any details about what we're doing and how we're trying to do digital transformation in the supply chain.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your company, Tag-N-Trac, and maybe a little bit about what the inspiration was for your business.
Yeah, we started Tag-N-Trac in almost late 2020, before the COVID just hit. The lockdowns were just put in. What a good timing, And the reason we started Tag-N-Trac is that I come from wireless background, worked in Qualcomm for almost 20 years. Doing different types of wireless connectivity on smartphones. Then I worked in first generation IoT, where we were doing connected lights, connected air conditioner, thermostats,
Wow.
Anything that was connected at home, it was all IoT in the beginning. Yeah, so then most of the time we're in the chip business, so we're doing silicon and software. And I wanted to be more in the B2B space. And when I started Tag-N-Trac, I looked at which vertical has the IoT more specific to purpose-built IoT. That's when I looked at supply chain, and most of the supply chain is still using very first generation silicon, because they were built for mobile, and most of the silicon companies were transitioning from mobile to IoT side. But they didn't design the chips immediately. So they were just repurposing what's available on an audio Bluetooth, and they would supply it in a IoT space, same Bluetooth that was actually designed for audio. So that's how the IoT transition was happening, and the cost structures were really high. And they were not purpose-built for logistics and supply chain. That's the reason why we started Tag-N-Trac. We wanted to make it more easy for the enterprises, because the enterprises are more looking at their supply chain end-to-end, how the data gets managed, but they don't have expertise to go one level down to look at what wireless technology, how do I bring sensors, what is a low power design, this type of wireless radio frequency management, this type of expertise they don't have. And most of the time they would just buy an ODM device and then try to integrate into their supply chain, and it wouldn't satisfy all the needs. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why we thought, since we come from the semiconductor background in the wireless side, we understand the chip, we understand the cost structures. We thought maybe we make it into a repeatable, low-cost solution that's already pre-integrated till the data acquisition. And then we give it to the enterprise customers, who then can write their supply chain applications on top. That's the vision that we started with. We're an IoT platform as a service, where the entire hardware is pre-integrated in a repeatable solution. So they can just plug in their WMS application, transportation application, ERP applications on top, and they're ready to go in whatever supply chain they're in.
What are some of the advantages with Tag-N-Trac over traditional, barcode scanning, serialization, things like that? I was reading up a little bit on it, and obviously, eliminating some of the manual scanning and things like that could be super, helpful from a productivity standpoint. But would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah. So a typical, if you take, I'll give you an example of a case study that we did with one of the air logistic company out of Europe. A typical piece level logistics of an air parcels going from customer to customer. or factory to factory. So they print a paper label, and then they give that to a driver. The truck driver goes to the factory, pick up an air parcel. He does one scan there. Then he loads into the truck, brings it to their spoke. So it's a hub and spoke type logistics, if you think about that. Then the spoke scans it. Then it makes into a bigger pallet, puts it into a truck, and then truck driver scans again, saying that, okay, I received from the spoke, I put it in my truck, I'm driving to the hub. It goes to the hub, they have to do another scan, inbound scan, then they have to do the outbound scan to figure out where it needs to go. Then they hand off to another truck driver. The truck driver scans again, then it goes to an airport. They do another scan and it goes to airplane, another scan. Mm-hmm. From the hub, it goes to the destination airport. From airport to the warehouse, another 2 scans. From there to the customer, another 3 scans. So on average, you're doing almost 17 scans on a parcel, on single piece of parcel. And then if you multiply that to 10 million parcels, imagine the amount of work operationally you have to do. And that is where we're trying to transform is now what if we take that label and then we embed a sensor. That sensor is actively transmitting every 10 seconds, every 30 seconds that, hey, I'm so-and-so parcel, I'm currently here and I'm going to go here. And that information is getting advertised every 30 seconds. And now you have smartphones, all smartphones are Bluetooth enabled. Even the truck driver can have an app that is doing a background scan on Bluetooth. And at the warehouses, we put the readers for the Bluetooth, and then we can automate this entire process end to end. And the way we deploy it is we capture the metadata required for a given parcel at the time of the label printing itself. You print the label, and then a camera comes in and it captures the metadata of the shipment and then the ID of the sensor that's commissioned for that shipment. That's the only time the scan happens. After that, either a smartphone or a cellular gateway that's at the endpoints in the spoken hub, they're automatically reading this data and all the way to the last mile. So that's the type of automation you can do, and you can eliminate this 17, 18 scans that you need at every chain of custody.
How does the along that value chain, that supply chain, how do you make sure that the various systems are integrated along that entire process? Is that maybe part of the challenge in making sure that your technology is rolled out across that entire supply chain?
Yes. So actually, that's a good question. Actually, anytime you're trying to do this digital transformation on an existing legacy system, the first challenge that comes is, now how do I integrate into all the existing systems without having to change anything? Mm-hmm. That's our motto, has been that we want to be backward compatible. At the same time, we want to be forward looking. With that brings the challenge of what type of legacy systems we have to integrate to push this data up, push the data down, so it's seamlessly exchanging information. And we have done this with very API first driven platform. So we have REST APIs, we have webhooks. We provide this end to end with SAP, TMS, WMS, any legacy system that's already there, like Manhattan is one of the legacy warehouse management system. Mm-hmm. TMS, most of the top 10 logistic companies, they have their own TMS system. So we integrate with them with an API first approach. And that's been one of our challenges, to integrate with multiple systems. And we have already finished 3 integrations with some of the top logistic vendors. And this is the continuous work. It's not going to stop. And most of any sophisticated stack has to have very open architecture, standardized, so more easy to plug and play, no code, low code type approach. So that's what we're going with.
Awesome. What are some of the factors that you feel have made you successful so far?
I think the factors is one thing is we have to take the complexity out of the technology for the enterprises. The enterprises want to know how we're going to solve their problem. They don't want to know how how you're solving it, what type of technology you're using, how is your manufacturing process. They want to have a solution that works. And that's what we are trying to ease them into this new technology, where we show them the solutions that are demonstratable, and running a quick pilot so that they can see that, wow, it works. Within like 1 month of deployment, they can see like how the technology is behaving in their environment. Because some of these warehouses, they're tough environments. These have concrete walls. These have like 20 doors. When the truck comes, you want to know which truck came and how many packages came. All this need to happen with no failure. The problem is, in a hub-like situation for a big logistic company, you don't have time to figure out a failure in technology, because for them, it's very operational intense. The truck comes, you need to unload the entire truckload of parcels. From there, you need to look at the manifest and check everything came in. If 2 boxes I can't read, that entire shipment now has to go to the side, because they don't have time, because the next truck is coming in and they need to unload the new truck. And those are the challenges they feel is when you deploy into this kind of enterprise customers, that the solution has to be robust. It has to work all the time with 0 failures, right? So that's the type of intense environment they're in, and it is a challenge to deploy there. So we're learning as we do pilots. We're now commercially preparing to deploy at that scale, and that's some of our learning curves that we're getting to know.
Yeah, well, and you answered my next question, which is, what are some of those hurdles that you've had to overcome? Have there been any hurdles you've had to address related to the technology itself, the actual embedded chip that you put in?
Yeah, I think the first thing, there is a challenge. The last 2 years has been very challenging for a startup, where the silicon supply chain itself has took a major hit. And anywhere you want to go buy a silicon chip, the lead times were almost gone into like 54 weeks. If you want to get a temperature sensor, the lead time was like 60 months. 60 weeks sometimes, that type of lead times were there. And as a startup, if you really want to manufacture and scale up, the only way to scale up was to invest in reserving the parts, because you want to be in the queue to get your chunk of parts out of the fab. And that was a big challenge for us, because we don't have a lot of capital to go and put that capital into the silicon, reserving our silicon spot. And that, I think, is easing now. And now the lead times are come down to normal, almost like 12 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks. This is normal, to get the parts, compared to before. It was 54 weeks, 60 weeks, 80 weeks. Those are the timings we were getting. And that was a big challenge for us in scale up. We couldn't ramp up the way we wanted it to be. But now definitely the supply chain has eased a little bit.
It's good to hear. Yeah, I know that there were quite some delays during that COVID period, with all the supply chain things.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what a typical customer engagement would look like. Like a proof of concept or something like that. Do you typically start with that, and then you demonstrate the capability and you roll that out? How does that work with a customer?
Yes, I think that's a good question. So the way our approach was that we have this a model called 3D model. There's 3Ds in the 3D model. So there's a design, develop, deploy. And what we do is when we engage a customer, we start first with requirement gathering. And once we learn what they want to do or what solution they're trying to solve, whether it's cold chain, pharmaceuticals, perishable goods like food and beverages, or high value goods. So we talk to the customer, hey, what is the problem statement? And then they give us a problem statement like, hey, I have a loss prevention issue. I have my cold chain and it's a circular supply chain. So we want to recover all the boxes 100% because they're reusing the entire cold chain shipment boxes. So in those cases, then we look at them and say, okay, if you're recovering the sensor, that means it needs to last for 1 year because you don't need to throw away the sensor. I can run it for multiple times. With that in mind, then we publish a white paper, which is a solution architecture document. We articulate how we're going to solve the problem. We give them the white paper, then they agree with the scope and like how the data will be acquired. We go and run the pilot for anywhere from a month to 3 months. Initially, we were taking up to 6 months because we're still in the development process, but now we're pretty much in production. A lot of our products are in production. So we're now shrinking the whole software and our hardware stack to a 1 month to 3 month, 12 weeks max. We can demonstrate the solution. Within 4 weeks, they get all the data they want, and we can deploy in high volumes. And we show that the solution works. And from there, we go into contracting and then do into the final deployment. So yeah, we go from anywhere from a week to 3 months, and we're in commercial deployment.
Great. So the technology is repeatably deployable, but the use case can change depending on the customer's need, whether it's loss prevention or
cold chain. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
One thing we realized is that no supply chain is identical. However I design my stack, I go to the customer and say, I have a full TMS system. I have a warehouse system. We go to the customer, and then we learn that there is still that 5 to 10% his own way of doing it in the supply chain. So what we then do is that we customize that 10 to 15% for that customer, but the remaining 80%, 90% is leverageable but our goal is as we move forward, we then like 10, 20 customer implementations, we're thinking that customization will shrink to almost 5% or 2%.
How do you balance the customer requests for changes in your solution with staying true to your product roadmap? You have certain things, features that you want to build out, capabilities, and I'm assuming as when you're working with these customers, they're going to have their own features or asks of you. How do you balance those two?
Yeah, so this is actually very challenging for a startup. You want to get the revenue, and sometimes you're tempted to commit to the customizations because you want that customer, Right. But then if you commit to 5 of them, then all 5 of them are asking certain customization. That's when your scaling challenge starts piling in. Like, now you have resource problems, and now you have challenges to customize the solution for one customer, and now you have to test every single change you're making. We're actually fortunate enough that so far some of our investors are strategics too. So we are deploying the solutions, or at least designing in the beginning, for strategics. With that, we're learning a lot on how to deploy at scale with these enterprises. And right now, we do have this challenge of this custom feature definitions. So far, I think we have overcome with our roadmap. We probably don't need to do much customizations moving forward. We defined our products in a way. Our platform is Relativity, which is real-time visibility and traceability, with a very open architecture and API. We feel that the need for customizations will go down, and our device portfolio is also growing. So we started with 8 devices. Now we have around 20 combinations of different sensors. I can plug and play. The way we architected is like a Lego bricks. So if somebody wants a solution, we take like a different Lego bricks, between hardware and software, and then we build a solution up. With this type of modular approach, I think we should be able to solve this custom, requirements. We should be able to still scale with the customer.
Great. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today about Tag-N-Trac before we wrap up?
Yeah, Tag-N-Trac, we are trying to be a platform as a service for hardware and a software for data acquisition in supply chain. And we're looking for application developers who are writing supply chain applications like ForeKites, Project 44, Overhaul, anybody in the supply chain execution looking for a reliable data acquisition platform. We don't need to look anywhere, just to come to us, and we'll give you a turnkey solutions in the IoT space.
Awesome. Venu, thank you very much for joining me today. Really appreciated the conversation and learning more about Tag-N-Trac. It sounds like you've got a great business going. For any additional video interest, please visit cdomagazine.tech, where you can see some of these other interviews that we have. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me. It was fun talking to you and answering all your questions.
Great.